Decisions, decisions, decisions is what Canelo Alvarez is saying these days. Dontaesboxingnation, what's going on, guys? You know, it was almost about 2 months ago now that I did a video about Canelo Alvarez making an announcement that he's going to be fighting 3 times in 2014. Now, we all know that Canelo Alvarez, the main person that he wants more than anyone, is Miguel Cotto. All right, this is what he said when he made this announcement. This was the main person that Canelo Alvarez wanted, was Miguel Cotto. Now we know that it's getting closer and closer to Sergio Martinez and Miguel Cotto possibly making an announcement that they're going to be fighting sometime in June, which basically shatters the dreams of Canelo Alvarez having a tailor-made opponent that would make sense money-wise, but would not make sense in terms of moving him up the ladder when it comes to being top 10, one of the best fighters in the world, even cracking the top 10. Like I told you guys before in my previous video, Miguel Cotto is a good money fight, but it does nothing for Canelo Alvarez's status when it comes to being considered a legitimate pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Because right now he's not. Right now, Canelo Alvarez is not considered pound-for-pound one of the best fighters in the world. All right? Now, I'm going back to the video that I made about, like I said, almost a month ago or whatever. I had a list of fighters that Canelo Alvarez would have to face in 2014 to be considered a legitimate top 10 pound-for-pound champion. Now, the list of fighters was very similar to the list that you guys are looking at right now on this video, with the exception of Triple G not being on here and I believe Austin Trout. Those were the other guys that I had on this list. I had Victor Ortiz on the list as well, but he was just on there as a possible potential opponent. Now, since I made that previous video, there have been some changes in the 154-pound division. I believe fighters like Erislandy Lara and Demetrius Andrade, they have established themselves as being in a league of their own when it comes to everyone else that fights at 154 pounds. Now, me personally, I believe number one in that division, without a doubt, the best 154-pounder in the division right now is Erislandy Lara. This man continues to prove himself over and over again. He fought against Austin Trout, the same opponent, coincidentally, that Canelo Alvarez faced, and Erislandy Lara, he beat him far more decisively than Canelo Alvarez did. He made it look like a walk in the park, did Erislandy Lara, okay? And then you have number 2 best fighter in the division right now, I believe, Demetrius Andrade. Demetrius was stepping up for the very first time against a very, very tough challenger in Vanes Martirosyan. He dominated. He showed a different side of him. He showed a couple different sides of him in that fight. So very impressive performance by Demetrius Andrade. And I believe this is why these 2 fighters are at the top of the division. Now, and I personally believe that Canelo Alvarez, he deserves the number 3 spot at 154. So I guess the rhetorical question is, how does Canelo Alvarez become number 1, the best fighter at 154 pounds? All right, I mean, let's just look at the fights that have taken place recently. Everyone has been stepping up, right? Like I said, Lara fought against Trout. Demetrius Andrade fought against Vanes Martirosyan. So now the question is, who is Canelo going to fight next? All right? Who is he going to fight next? Now, we understand that, or I understand that he just came off of a loss. All right? Now, he didn't get knocked out. It wasn't Trinidad Fernando Vargas or anything like that, but he did take a L, okay? Now, I totally understand if Canelo Alvarez were to say, you know what, I'm not going to fight some tough lion like Erislandy Lara right now or Demetrius Andrade. But what I will do is possibly fight someone like Carlos Molina. You know, Carlos Molina, he has a title, you know, and et cetera, et cetera. And I'll start with him, and then after that, I'll fight one of those lions. I'll fight the best in the division. And since I'm talking about Carlos Molina right now as being a possible potential opponent for Canelo Alvarez, let's make it very clear that this is once again complete evidence that if Canelo doesn't fight Erislandy Lara next or even next year, it never had anything to do with trying to pull the entertainment card. Basically saying, oh, Lara is not entertaining enough. Oh, Lara, he doesn't have a big following, a big draw, etc., etc. This is complete proof that if Canelo is even thinking about fighting Carlos Molina, that it was never about his entertainment value. It's always been about Canelo's entertainment value. All right? This is the reason why if you look at the fighters that Canelo Alvarez has faced previously, the majority of them didn't have a fan base. Okay? Matthew Hatton. A lot of people didn't even know Ricky Hatton had a brother. And then he fights Josito Lopez. These are complete relative unknown fighters. So Canelo Alvarez, he has no excuse to not fight the best fighter in the division, Erislandy Lara. But like I said earlier in the video, I understand that Canelo, he just came off of a loss. It's okay if he takes somewhat of a softer touch and he takes on, another champion in the division, which is Carlos Molina. Now, even though Carlos Molina will not do a whole bunch for Canelo Alvarez's status in the division, it is a decent stepping stone. Okay? It is a decent stepping stone to bigger fights in 2014. Now, my whole thing is, this is the problem that I have with Canelo right now. Out of all the fighters that I had on my list previously, fighters that he needed to fight to go to the next level, and even fighters that he's going to face just to have a good, legitimate opponent, this is all I have to object to, and the reason why I have to ask the question, why is this guy right here, Alfredo Angulo, even considered as a possible opponent for Canelo Alvarez next? You see, like I said, when it comes to Carlos Molina, people are going to criticize Canelo for taking that fight already. So if you go out and you try to fight Alfredo Angulo after he just quit against Lara, then Canelo Alvarez is going to be looked at as a complete joke. I mean, you already have a lot of people who look at Canelo Alvarez as an overrated fighter that people wanted to believe was better than he really is. I don't believe that Canelo is a joke. I believe that he's very good. He's a very good fighter. He has a lot of potential. He has a lot of flaws, but he does have a lot of potential. But like I said, if Canelo goes out and fights this man right here, Angulo, as his next opponent, then even the Canelo Alvarez fans are going to have to go back and reevaluate what you thought about Canelo Alvarez. There is no reason that Canelo should be taking an opponent like Alfredo Angulo when you have Lara fighting against Trout, you have Andre fighting against Fanes Martirosyan. There is no reason for Canelo to be fighting against Alfredo Angulo. And the reason why I'm telling you guys this because it was just recently reported that Team Canelo, they basically said the next opponent is going to most likely be either Carlos Molina or Alfredo Angulo. I mean, this is the time for Canelo Alvarez to show that he is one of the best fighters in the world. You ain't going to even come close to doing that fighting against Angulo. I mean, you really ain't even doing it fighting against Carlos Molina. Like I said, that's just a little small stepping stone to the big fish, which is Erislandy Lara. Will Canelo ever fight against Erislandy Lara is the question. Will he fight against Demetrius Andrade? Okay? These are the type of opponents that he's supposed to be fighting, guys. And let me say this as well. Every single time I do a video talking about Canelo Alvarez, people always bring up Floyd Mayweather, basically trying to suggest that Canelo is doing all of the same things that Floyd Mayweather does. So let me just make the distinction real quick and educate you guys who are dumb enough to actually think that, because I know it's not everyone, but there's a small percentage of people who love to make that comparison. Canelo Alvarez is not even top 10, one of the best fighters in the world. Floyd Mayweather is already considered the best fighter in the world. Floyd Mayweather is already considered the best fighter of his era. You cannot compare what Canelo Alvarez is trying to do in his young career to what Floyd Mayweather has already done. Okay? You can't say, well, it's okay for him not to fight Lara and Andre and do this and do that. Hey, Floyd Mayweather did it. Floyd Mayweather did this, he did that. But what you're not understanding is Floyd Mayweather is already considered pound for pound the best fighter in the world. Floyd is already sitting at the top of the mountain. And he's still challenging himself. He's still fighting the type of opponents that no one else is fighting today at that level, at that age. Okay? I mean, think about it. If we're really comparing and saying, oh, Canelo, he does the same type stuff that Floyd Mayweather does. If Canelo did the same type stuff that Floyd Mayweather does, Canelo would be top 2, top 3 best fighter in the world right now, right? People will be calling him one of the best fighters in the world right now. If Canelo is the exact same or even close to the same as a Floyd Mayweather, let's just be realistic about this. Can anyone picture Canelo Alvarez in his late 30s fighting a guy at a higher division, even at a catchweight? Okay? Let's just say hypothetically 10 years from now, or even more than 10 years, because let's put Canelo in his late 30s. All right? He's 23 right now? So we're talking about 14, 15 years from now. He'll be 37 years old. All right? Can you picture Canelo Alvarez at 37 years old? Let's say at that time he's a middleweight. And let's just say you had, hypothetically, a new Andre Ward who was at 168 pounds. He's 23 years old, 14 years younger than Canelo Alvarez. He's considered one of the up-and-coming biggest stars in the sport, has all type of amateur pedigree and experience, and he's calling out Canelo Alvarez. He wants Canelo. He's been calling him out forever. That's the fight that he wants. Even though he fights at 168 and Canelo fights at 160, that's the fight that he wants. He's willing to do a catchweight and everything. Do you think that Canelo Alvarez will take that fight? Most likely, we know just by looking at who he's fighting today. Possibly thinking about fighting the loser who lost to Lara instead of fighting Lara himself, who beat the loser. That kind of tells you it's a good chance that he wouldn't take on a challenge like that. Okay? I mean, let's face it. The average champion is not Floyd Mayweather. It's not Bernard Hopkins. The average fighter would not take on a challenge like that. Fighting a guy who's 14 years younger than you and naturally bigger than you. All right? But let's just say maybe he would fight him. Maybe Canelo would fight the young Andre Ward. If Canelo did fight him, who would you pick to win that fight? I'm almost sure the majority of you guys would not pick Canelo to win that fight. Like I said, if we're talking about the same Andre Ward, but we're just switching the age, we're switching that around. We're basically putting Canelo Alvarez in the exact same situation that Floyd Mayweather was in. Canelo does not win a fight against Andre Ward. And I think we all can agree to that, right? I think even Canelo Alvarez fans can agree to that one right there. And once again, for the people who love to bring up Mayweather versus Canelo when it comes to Canelo not fighting against Lara, understand something. If you're comparing Mayweather against Pacquiao, Mayweather negotiated with Pacquiao 3 times. Mayweather called out Pacquiao. Mayweather called him on his phone. Last time I checked, Canelo did none of that with Erislandy Lara. That is the true definition of ducking someone. You don't negotiate. Now, that's not to suggest that Canelo might not fight him in the future. Canelo Alvarez is all the way at the bottom of the mountain looking up at Floyd Mayweather and the other people who's sitting up there. And he's trying to find a way to reach that pinnacle, to reach the peak. Okay? And he ain't going to do it fighting against Alfredo Angulo, is the point, isn't it? So I basically just wanted to report this news and elaborate on it. The bottom line is Canelo is possibly going to fight Angulo or Carlos Molina next. I personally hope he at least fights Carlos Molina. It ain't a huge step, but it's a decent step. But if he's scheduled to fight 3 times in 2014, hopefully we get to see him in the ring with either Sergio Martinez, an Andrade, or an Erislandy Lara. I'm out of time, guys. I'm on to the next one.